Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
Good morning and welcome to this week's National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. I'm your co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine, here with your host, Mr. Lee Martin, and we have another interesting guest today, Ms. Laura Williams, Supervisor of the Indiana State Library, the Indiana Braille Talking Book and Braille Library. And Lee, how are you doing today?
Well, once again, Florence, it's a blessing to be blessed. And today we have a great guest that's going to leave great information and great blessings to those that are listening today. And Ms. Williams, once again, we want to thank you for allowing us to have you today with us on our NFBN Newsline Indiana show.
You're welcome.
So we're going to start off talking a little bit about a service, the National Federation of the Blind, one of our programs, and that is the National Federation of the Blind Newsline. And here in Indiana, we have developed the program with the National Federation of the Blind, as well as our state sponsor, which is the Indiana State Library. And we're just glad to have such participation with our viewers and our listeners on this show. And a lot of times we get questions and we let them know that the Talking Book and Braille Library is an entity that they can often use. Now, some of the programs or some of the features that we have with the National Federation of the Blind Newsline is the over 500 publications. They're all free. It's free access. It's a free audio information service that allows blind and print challenged citizens to utilize the service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'm going to have Florence, our co-host, talk a little bit about the magazine portion of the NFB Newsline and the devices that she likes to use.
Okay, now there's about at least nine categories that I know of that we can access the NFB Newsline through. There's blind specific, there's Children's Corner, there's family, just general information. There's a variety of newspapers to choose from. And Lee, I know I always mention AARP because I read that magazine frequently. But there's magazines for children, there's magazines for adults and seniors. There's magazines for everyone. Now, I access my NFB Newsline service using my iPhone because I download the app and it gives me access to my newspapers, magazines, TV guide listings, job search. It gives me access to all of this information. And as you mentioned, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But we also access that service using the A-Lady, the Alexa. We access it using the Victor Reader Stream, our computer, the digital player from the Talking Book and Braille Library, as well as our computer. So we can access this free audio information service in various ways. And I choose to use my iPhone. Another feature that I use with my iPhone, because it gives me free access to basic KNFB Reader, so that I can read my documents, my mail, any printed material that I get using the basic KNFB Reader from my iPhone. So that, again, allows me to do this independently. So that's another plus for the NFB Newsline service that I use. And Lena, I know that you're an avid reader of the newspapers. I read the newspapers, but not as much as you do. So if you would just tell us a little bit about those newspapers.
Well, with the NFB Newsline there, we have several things there. One of the things that I really like to go to is the Indiana State specific channel. And there you'll find resources throughout the state of Indiana. And you'll find a list of your legislators and how you can contact them. And it makes it very easy. You can also find out about chapters throughout the state of Indiana with the National Federation of the Blind. You can find out about the ACB. You can find out about the Indiana Talking Book and Braille Library, Bosma Enterprises, and so forth. So that's a great spot that I'd like to go to and send new subscribers to, so that they can be informed of what's going on in their state. At this point in time, we have 18 Indiana publications throughout the state. You can access those 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And once again, those are free. We also have publications from other states. And oftentimes we're finding that people relocate to the Indiana. And once they relocate, they still like to keep up with what's going on in their cities. And that makes a great tool for them as well. We also have national publications. And just to give you a few of those national publications, we have the Financial Times, Globe's Israel, The Guardian, Japan Times, London Telegraph, Montreal Telegram, as well as the task of the Russian publication that we have there. So you can go all around the world with the National Federation of the Blind Newsline. We also have TV guide listings, job listings, which is very usable. You can find jobs all over the country just by creating a profile and using your zip code. You can also use our Target and Walmart circulars. So those are heavily used, particularly during the Christmas season. So those are some of the things that we have with the National Federation of the Blind Newsline as far as publications. And if you follow our commercials, and you can get a hold of us, and we can make your subscription a reality. So we'll be right back, and we're going to take a short pause, and we're going to come back with this very special guest from the Indiana State Talking Book and Braille Library Service, Ms. Laura Williams. Stay tuned.
Thousands of Indiana residents feel isolated from the world due to vision problems. Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm blind. I read Stars and Stripes on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana. And again, I mentioned that we have our special guest today, Ms. Laura Williams from the Indiana State Talking Book and Braille Library. Now, Laura, welcome to our show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, tell us a little bit about your position there at the Indiana State Library.
I am the supervisor of the Talking Book and Braille division of the Indiana State Library. I'm new in this position. I started in April, but I have been with the State Library in Talking Books for about 9 years now.
About 9 years. Okay, now I recall talking to you several times over the years.
Yes.
Now, over at the Indiana State Talking Book and Braille Library part of it, now, what would you say would be, well, as far as the patrons, I'm going to go there. The patrons of the Talking Book and Braille Library. as it is now, and I know that it's, with COVID and everything, has the state library been open, accessible to the public?
Yes, we have been open to the public since the beginning of July of this year.
Okay.
Okay, that's very interesting. Has that COVID seemed to impact the number of patrons that you think that come through there?
No, because we get very few walk-in patrons at any time because our service is all done through the postal service. COVID didn't really affect us in terms of that at all.
Okay, I would like to ask you, Laura, what interested you in becoming, working for the library?
Well, I wanted to work for the state library in some capacity, and this job, or my previous job, I should say, the librarian job in Talking Books opened up. And I have to admit that I didn't know anything about the National Library Service. So I learned on the job. And over the last 9 years, I've learned a lot about all the intricacies of the network and the patrons and what they need, etc.
Okay, would you want to share with us what do you find are some of the needs of patrons that come for the Talking Book and Braille library services?
The most important thing is just sort of dependable, regular service. We've changed our service model starting in the fall of 2020. We're now sending out multiple books on a cartridge instead of one book per cartridge. So patrons can get up to 10 books on one of the cartridges and navigate through them. And we found that for the most part, it's been very popular. It's really cut down on the number of phone calls because people are getting books in a regular fashion, and they're getting more than they were before with fewer physical objects that have to move through the mail.
Okay, now over the years, now I've been I use the digital player for the Talking Book and Braille library.
Yes.
So I use the cartridge. Now, with using those cartridges, I recall that they have had, I guess, what they consider to be managers or people who are over the patrons. Are they assigned an individual manager or someone over the patrons to assist those?
Yeah, we do have 2 reader advisors, and in addition, the 2 librarians sort of back them up. We sort of, when it moved away from the system where each person has an individual assigned to them, basically, if you call in with a reader advisor question, like any of us can help you and answer your questions.
I guess I'm kind of from the old school with that Talking Book and Braille library, as I've been blind now for 21 years. And when I was introduced to this, they were sending out the cassette tapes.
Yes.
So, and you guys have elevated up with technology.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit about this digital player that is being used by patrons, and are there any new developments or new technologies that's coming about?
Yes, so the digital player has been in use for about a decade now, a little more, and they are in the process of creating what's called the Digital Talking Book 2, that sort of new edition. I can't give any timeline on when that might be ready, but that will be a Bluetooth enabled. And so you will be able to download directly to the machine from the cloud.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what I use now, I use an iPhone, and I downloaded the mobile app so that I can have access to Bart Mobile that way. And the books, I look at that as a very unique feature. It's something that, well, for instance, I'm an avid reader. I love reading. And so just having it right there at my iPhone, no matter where I go, I mean, the digital player is good.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, it's good. But when I'm over my daughter's house or somewhere else, I can just pull up my iPhone and just read, continue reading my book wherever I am. So that is awesome.
Yes.
Now, how long have they, are you aware how long have that feature existed?
I want to say Bard Mobile has been around since about 2013 or 14.
Mhm.
And first there was the app for the iPhone, and now there's one for Android supported devices as well.
Oh, so you got something for Android now, because I
Oh
know
yeah.
a lot of Android users feel like they're left out the box sometime. And I'm glad to see that we have that the availability for
Yes, and
Android users.
Certain Kindle Fires as well will support it.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come right back for our second segment with Miss Laura Williams from the Indiana Talking Book and Braille Library Services. So stay tuned.
As I travel the nation, I read NFB Newsline.
I live in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I listen to my local news on NFB Newsline.
As a student, I enjoy reading current events on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
Join us at the Indiana Vision Expo, Saturday, September 11th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. People with vision loss, their friends, families, and service providers can find resources for independent living. Meet the Talking Book and Braille staff. Get info on the Lux IQ lighting diagnostic tool and the latest from vendors like Bosma Enterprises, National Federation of the Blind, and Vision Aid Systems. Saturday, September 11th, 10 to 2 at the Indiana State Library. Park for $10 at the Senate Avenue parking garage. This message from NFB Newsline, Indiana.
Back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana, and we're speaking with Laura Williams from the Indiana State Talking Book and Braille Library. And Laura, we were talking about Bard Mobile and access to this service. Now, if someone looking at the show today, listening to the show, whatever the case may be, might be interested in gaining this service, who would they contact? What would they do?
Yeah, so there's several ways of doing it. Probably the easiest is we have a toll-free number. It's 800-622-4970. You can give us a call and we can mail you an application. There's also applications available from our website through the state library. That application will need to be signed by someone that can certify that you qualify, which can be a primary care physician, it can be an eye doctor, it can be a nurse, a social worker, a reading specialist, an activity director, and all those people will be on the application itself.
Okay, now tell me something. From your perspective, what are the real benefits to a person that qualifies for the Talking Book and Braille Library? What would you consider one of the greatest benefits that this program offers or service offers?
So it's going to get you a very wide variety of audio and Braille and large print. It's going to give you a wider variety than, say, like an audible.com. It's completely free, for one thing. There are now no wait times for books, unlike perhaps at your local library where there are audiobooks available, but only a certain number of copies. We can get you, there are over 100,000 books available, digital audiobooks now on Bard, and we can deliver those to you within a matter of days.
Is there a limit on how many books a person might be able to get at a time, Laura?
We try to limit everyone to 4 cartridges with 10 books each. So that's 40. So in some cases, we'll make exceptions, but we figure 40 is probably a good number.
Okay. Digital player from the Talking Book and Braille Library. Is there a limit on how long a patron might be able to utilize that equipment?
No, as long as you are using the service, you are free to keep the equipment.
Now, do you have any like a return policy if it's damaged or anything of that nature?
Of course, these players are, entering their second decade, and the batteries wear out quickly. So if the battery wears out, or if there's something else that happens, you just give us a call. We will send out a replacement player that same day.
Okay. Now, with the cartridges that the patron might receive, now, when a person gets those cartridges in the mail, how do they return these cartridges? How does that work?
Yeah, so the cartridges come in little sort of square containers. There's a mailing card in each one, which will have a list of the books. And in order to return the book, you just remove that mailing card, and you can either throw it away or you can keep it for your records. And that cartridge container will have a sticker on it with our return address. And it just goes back in the mail, postage free.
Oh, that's pretty easy.
Yep, we try to make it as simple as possible.
Well, I know that until BART came out, when BART really came out and I started using it more, I kind of got away from the digital player. And I recommend the digital player for those that really, you really want to sit and listen to, or take it with you to listen to your books. I tell you, it's nothing more encouraging to me as a blind citizen that have lost my sight and have lost sight of print, and having such a program or a service there for blind patrons or blind or visually impaired patrons. I find it just to be something that's really fantastic. And I'll encourage individuals to check out the Talking Book and Braille Library and the multiple services that they provide. Now, at the same time, Laura, what would be your words of encouragement to individuals or to get people up and energized about the Talking Book and Braille Library services?
I would say it's a great service. It's very adaptable. We can send you books based on subject preferences. We can send you books based on your favorite authors. And there's so much variety out there now, particularly as the commercial talking book market has really taken off over the last 10 years. So the variety of titles has really increased. So yeah, I would encourage everyone to check us out.
All right. Now, Laura, there is an annual event that happens at the Indiana State Library. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yes, we are having it's now every other year. So I guess you call it biannual.
Biannual, okay.
Yes. Indiana Vision Expo. This year, it's on Saturday, September 11th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. here at the library. It's a great opportunity for anyone with vision loss, their families, friends, service providers to check out vendors that are exhibiting resources that are available to promote independent living. So we'll have, I think, around 20 vendors this year. Our program is also going to include a presentation by the Will Center from Terre Haute and Bosma Enterprises. There's no cost to attend. The only cost is the parking, which is available for $10 in the Senate Avenue parking garage, which is you enter off of New York Street between West Street and Senate Avenue downtown. There will be food available for purchase. And new this year, the library has a new little retail space on the first floor called the Nook. And that is, they'll have a selection of Indiana and library themed gifts, as well as drinks and snacks from Indiana vendors. And there will be a special 20% off rate for all the visitors to the expo.
Well, we're looking forward to the expo as we do every other year. And I tell you, it has been great to see the amount of vendors that are there collaborating and working together. as we truly believe working together does work in our communities. So we're going to take us a short pause and come back with the conclusion of our program with Ms. Laura Williams from the Talking Book and Braille Library. So stay tuned.
Join us at the Indiana Vision Expo, Saturday, September 11th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. People with vision loss, their friends, families, and service providers can find resources for independent living. Meet the Talking Book and Braille staff. Get info on the Lux IQ lighting diagnostic tool and the latest from vendors like Bosma Enterprises, National Federation of the Blind, and Vision Aid Systems. Saturday, September 11th, 10 to 2 at the Indiana State Library. Park for $10 at the Senate Avenue parking garage. This message from NFB Newsline, Indiana.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Back to the conclusion of our show, and we were speaking with Ms. Laura Williams from the Indiana State Talking Book and Braille Library. And Laura, again, thank you for being our guest today and for the information.
You're welcome.
Now, are there any words that you would like to leave with our viewing and listening audience today?
I just would like to encourage anyone who's interested to contact us. And again, the service is entirely free. There's never going to be any cost associated with it. And everything is done through the mail. So you're never going to need to actually come into the library.
Awesome.
Well, I tell you, Laura, it has been my pleasure and the show's pleasure to speak with you. And I'm sure that our viewing and listening audience throughout Central Indiana can benefit from the Talking Book and Braille Library services. So we want to thank you once again. We really do appreciate your time, and we look forward to collaborating with you in the very near future.
You're welcome.
Yes, ma'am. So we want our guests, our listening audience, and everyone to join us next week as we venture on to a brand new show. So stay tuned, and may you guys continue to be blessed. Take care of one another and be safe.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.